Chevrolet is about to unleash an engine that would quietly become the backbone of American performance for the next half-century. Not a flashy big block, not an exotic aluminum V12, but a humble 350 cubic inch small block V8. At first, it looked like just another Chevy motor. But beneath the hood lurked quirks, experiments, and scandals that rewrote history. Tonight, we're diving into 20 weird, shocking, and hidden facts about the legendary Chevy 350. And wait till you hear why number one almost never made it to production. It involves corporate sabotage and a fight that could have killed the small block forever. The Chevy 350 isn't just an engine. It's the small block that defined a generation of hot rods, Camaros, trucks, and Corvettes. It became the most swapped, most modified, and most mass-produced V8 in history. But behind the stats are secrets GM never wanted you to know. Before we dig in, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the engines, cars, and scandals that shaped automotive history. Number 20, born in a Camaro. But not the first choice. When the 350 debuted in 1967, it wasn't meant for the Camaro at all. Chevrolet engineers originally designed it for the Corvette. But marketing panicked? Why? Because Ford's Mustang was eating Chevy's lunch in sales. The Camaro needed more bite, and the brand new 350 became the secret weapon, RPOL 48. Here's the kicker. It was rated at just 295 horsepower, a modest figure on paper, but insiders say it made closer to 330. Even stranger, GM rushed production so fast that early 350 blocks carried casting quirks from 327 tooling, making them prized by collectors today. Spotter's tip: look for 3892657 casting numbers on 67 blocks. Those are the transitional unicorns. And if you think the Camaro launch was messy, wait until you hear how the 350 nearly got banned from NASCAR. Number 19. The racing ban that backfired. In 1963, GM publicly banned factory-backed racing, but the 350 was born into that shadow. Officially, it was a street engine. Unofficially, engineers were slipping parts out the back door to racers. Why? Because NASCAR and drag racers were begging for a middleweight V8 that revved higher than a 396 big block. Even more shocking, dealers like Yenko and Nicky built back-channel 350 performance cars with wink and nod GM support. The result, the 350 became a sleeper racing motor, winning SCCA Trans Am championships under Chevy and even AMC badges. Collectors still hunt for original Trans Am spec 350 blocks with 4-bolt mains. And if you think that's sneaky, number 18 proves Chevrolet pulled an even dirtier trick by lying about horsepower ratings. Number 18, the great horsepower lie. The 350 quickly became infamous for underrating. Take the 1970 LT1 Corvette and Camaro Z/28. Chevy listed 370 horsepower, but dyno sheets from the era, they suggest more like 410 to 430. Why the deception? Insurance. By 1970, companies were hiking premiums on anything. Rated over 400 horsepower, Chevrolet found a loophole: fudge the numbers. Here's the twist. This wasn't the only time. Period documents show the 1969 Z/28's 300, 2 and 350 cross-ram setups were sandbagged too. Spotter's tip: real LT1s carry high-rise aluminum intakes and Holley carb stampings. Watch out for clones. But horsepower games weren't the only cover-up. Coming up next, the 350 was almost canceled by government regulators before it hit showrooms. Number 17. Almost outlawed by Uncle Sam. In the late 60s, emissions laws were tightening fast. The newly formed EPA had its eye on high-compression V8s. Here's the kicker. Chevy engineers secretly tested detuned 350 with exhaust gas recirculation, EGR systems, before the regulations even required it. Why? They feared the government might kill the engine outright. Rumor has it that an early 350 prototype even ran with a catalytic-style converter in 1968, 7 years before CATs became mandatory. Collectors whisper about these test engines, but no confirmed survivors exist. Still, the scramble to clean the 350 explains why compression dropped from 11:1 to under 9:1 by 1971. And if you think low compression ruined the fun, number 16 proves enthusiasts had another trick up their sleeves. Number 16. Police packages with a secret kick. Most people think of the Chevy 350 as a Camaro or Corvette motor. But here's a curveball. Police cruisers. In the 70s and 80s, Chevy quietly offered RPOL65 and later 9C1 police package 350s. On paper, just 170 to 190 horsepower. In practice, these motors had beefier cooling, 4-bolt mains, and sometimes higher output cams. Officers reported mysterious top speeds north of 120 miles per hour, numbers that embarrassed civilian caprices. Today, ex-police 350 cars are a budget way into small block performance, but only if you know what to look for. Spotter's tip: check for 9C1 code on the trim tag and extra oil cooler lines. And if law enforcement surprises you, wait until you hear about the 350 that ended up in boats and airplanes. Number 15. From street to sea and sky. Yes, the 350 wasn't just a land motor. Marine builders like Mercruiser and OMC adapted it for boats, often with closed cooling and stainless hardware. But the twist? A handful of experimental aircraft also tested Chevy 350s as budget airplane power plants in the 70s. The small block's lightweight and plentiful parts made it tempting, though FAA approval never came. Still, stories of hot-rodded 350s powering home-built planes persist in hobbyist circles. Collectors love marine 350s for one reason: they often had lower hours and salt-resistant blocks. Spotter's tip: marine engines usually carry brass freeze plugs and unique casting stamps. And if you think boats were strange, number 14 uncovers a celebrity who made the 350 a household name in Hollywood. Number 14. Hollywood's favorite engine swap. When Burt Reynolds slid across the hood in Smokey and the Bandit Pontiac, Firebirds got all the fame. But here's the kicker: the cars used in filming? Most weren't running Pontiac 400s. They were secretly swapped with Chevy 350 because they were cheaper, lighter, and easier to replace when stunt cars crashed. The irony? Fans thought they were watching Pontiac muscle, but under the hood it was Chevrolet power. Today, surviving movie-used Bandit cars with 350 swaps are cult collector items. Spotter's tip: real movie stunt cars often had cage welds and modified suspension mounts, not just Pontiac vanes. But if Hollywood fooled us, number 13 shows that Chevy themselves played an even stranger marketing game. Number 13. The Canadian Camaro mystery. Here's a fact few Americans know: some early 350s were only available in Canada before the US market. In 1967, Canadian-built Camaros at the Oshawa plant received pilot 350s as a test bed before wide release. Why? GM of Canada had looser marketing oversight, making it the perfect place to quietly launch engines. Collectors now prize Oshawa-built cars with proof of early 350 installation. They're rarer than US equivalents. Spotter's tip: look for VINs starting with 2 and plant code O. And if you think Canada's test cars were strange, number 12 reveals that Chevy almost painted the 350 in colors you've never seen before. Number 12. The odd paint code. Experiment engines are usually black or orange, right? Well, Chevy got weird with the 350. In 1969, some early small-block 350s left the Tonawanda plant painted turquoise. Why? Records suggest Chevrolet was testing visibility and inspection efficiency on the line. But here's the kicker: dealers hated it. Customers complained that turquoise clashed under hoods meant to show off Chevy orange. The experiment was abandoned within months, making turquoise 350 blocks ultra-rare today. Collectors who find one often argue over originality, but insider accounts confirm the anomaly. Spotter's tip: turquoise 350s usually have a casting date late 68 to early 69, and untouched survivors add thousands in auction value. And if paint surprises you, number 11 reveals how the 350's parts bin created Frankenstein hybrids. Number 11. Frankenblocks from the factory. Sometimes GM cut corners. In the late 60s and 70s, shortages of casting molds meant some 300s and 50s used leftover 300s 27s or even 400s small block molds. The result? Oddball hybrids with casting numbers that don't match the displacement. Enthusiasts call them Frankenblocks. Here's the twist: many of these engines ran stronger thanks to thicker cylinder walls. Collectors love them because they can be bored out further without cracking. Spotter's tip: Check casting numbers like 3914678 or 3970010. These often show up in Franken batches. And if factory mistakes intrigue you, number 10 reveals how GM deliberately built a 350 that wasn't 350 at all. Number 10, the 262, 305, and 400 imposters. Here's the part nobody talks about. Chevy sold 300s and 50s that weren't really 350 cubic inches. During the malaise era, the small block family splintered. Engines like the 262 and 305 were marketed as Chevy V8s, but many buyers and even salesmen lumped them in as 350s. Even more shocking, the 400 small block shared the same family and often got swapped into cars badged as 350 powered. Confused? You're not alone. This mislabeling has plagued collectors for decades. Spotters tip: real 350s usually carry 010 or 020 high nickel castings, while imposters have unique bore sizes. Bring a bore gauge if in doubt. And if misdirection frustrates you, number 9 shows how Chevrolet had to hide the 350 to protect another GM division's pride. Number 9, Pontiac's secret shame. When GM introduced the 350, Pontiac dealers balked. They had their own 350 V8 and didn't want Chevy's motor competing in their cars. But here's the kicker. By the late 70s, Pontiac's engine program was dying. So GM quietly slotted Chevy 350s into Firebirds and Catalinas, badging them as Pontiac 5.8s. Customers had no idea. Even mechanics were confused by mismatched service manuals. Today, Pontiac purist collectors loathe these hybrids, while Chevy fans see them as bargains. Spotters tip: Pontiac blocks have the distributor at the rear and distinct casting marks. If it's missing, it's a Chevy masquerader. But if interdivisional politics shocked you, wait for number 8. The 350's bizarre role in a presidential limo. Number 8, the White House Chevy 350. Yes, the most mass-produced small block in history powered a car for the most powerful man in America. In the late 70s, Secret Service test vehicles used Chevy 350-powered Caprices as decoy limos. The reasoning? Reliability. Unlike experimental Cadillac 500s or armored Lincolns, the 350 could idle for hours, run on bad fuel, and be repaired anywhere in minutes. Rumor has it that one presidential 350 still sits in a government garage, preserved as a backup fleet relic. Spotters tip: look for ex-government cars with reinforced radiator supports and special fleet tags. They sometimes hide a piece of White House history. And if that sounds prestigious, number 7 shows how the 350 made its way into the weirdest performance Corvette of them all. Number 7. The detuned Corvette scandal. When the Corvette entered the smog era, enthusiasts expected big block thunder. Instead, in 1975, the only Corvette 5.8 was a single 350, rated at just 165 horsepower. Here's the twist. Chevy could have used higher output versions, but corporate cost-cutting forced them to sell America's sports car with an engine weaker than some sedans. Collectors call this the low point of Corvette history. Ironically, these weak 75 Corvettes are now creeping up in value because they represent the bottom of the curve. Spotters tip: look for original Rochester quadrajet carbs and catalytic converter setups. They're unique to this year. But if a weak Corvette seems bad, number 6 uncovers how the 350 secretly helped save muscle cars when they were almost extinct. Number 6. The secret lifeline of the 80s. By the early 1980s, most American V8s were shadows of their former selves. But here's the kicker. The Chevy 350 quietly kept performance alive. Special order versions like the L82, L81, and later the HO Crate 350 gave enthusiasts something to build on, even as Ford and Chrysler floundered. Tuners like Callaway, Lingenfelter, and Motion used the 350 as their foundation, keeping hot rodding alive through the darkest years. Without it, the aftermarket might have collapsed. Spotters tip: original L. 82 cars carry aluminum intakes and unique valve covers. Don't confuse them with garden variety smog motors. And if you think that's heroic, number 5 proves the 350 wasn't just a survivor. It became a legend in crate form. Number 5. The crate engine revolution. Here's the kicker. The Chevy 350 didn't just power cars on the assembly line. It pioneered the crate engine movement. In the 1980s, Chevrolet Performance started selling 350s in sealed crates, ready to drop into any hot rod, truck, or race car. The twist? These engines were sometimes stronger than the ones in production vehicles. The ZZ4 crate, for example, pumped out 355 horsepower right out of the box. Enthusiasts loved the plug-and-play reliability, and the aftermarket exploded. Today, the 350 remains the most popular crate engine in history, with countless versions still offered. Spotter's tip: authentic G. Man. Performance crates have unique barcoded tags. Beware of clones from backyard rebuilders. But if crate engines sound like dominance, number 4 proves the 350 even found its way back into NASCAR. Number 4. The NASCAR Resurrection. Although GM banned racing in the 60s, by the late 70s, the 350 found its way back to the oval. NASCAR teams used destroked and reinforced versions of the small block, essentially cousins of the production 350. These engines won championships under Chevy, Buick, and even Oldsmobile banners. Here's the twist. Many of those motors shared casting lineage with production 350 blocks, making them legal but barely. Collectors today prize ex-NASCAR small blocks because they're living artifacts of corporate loopholes. Spotter's tip: look for reinforced 4-bolt mains and dry sump oiling systems. And if NASCAR surprises you, number 3 proves the 350 even ended up where nobody expected, under the hoods of foreign cars. Number 3, export oddities, Holdens and beyond. You'd expect a Chevy 350 and a Camaro or a Corvette. But in the 70s and 80s, GM exported the engine to Australia, slotting it into Holden Monoros and Statesmans. Even stranger, some South African Chevrolets got 350s when other markets didn't. Why? Because local laws allowed V8 imports for government and police fleets. Even more shocking, a handful of European Opels and Volvos were rumored to be fitted with 350s by local GM divisions. Spotter's tip: export 350 SAS often carry unique casting numbers and metric accessory brackets. Collectors love them as curiosities. And if you think export 350s are wild, number 2 reveals how the engine almost killed GM's reputation with one misstep. Number 2, the diesel disaster that tarnished the small block name. In the late 70s, GM tried to cash in on fuel crises by creating a diesel V8 based on the small block architecture. The 350 diesel was born. But here's the kicker. It was under-engineered, prone to failure, and quickly earned a reputation as one of GM's worst engines ever. The twist? It wasn't truly the 350's fault. The diesel shared some dimensions but was a rushed compromise. Still, the association scarred the 350 name in the eyes of many consumers. Today, diesel 350 cars are avoided by collectors, but they stand as a cautionary tale. Spotter's tip: diesel blocks have reinforced mains and DX stampings. Don't confuse them with gas engines. And yet, all of this pales compared to number 1, the fight that almost killed the 350 before it began. Number 1. The engine GM tried to bury the most shocking fact: the 350 almost never made it to production at all. In 1966, GM's top brass wanted to push buyers toward big blocks for higher profit margins. The 350, a mid-sized V8, threatened to undercut that strategy. Internal memos reveal a battle between Chevrolet engineers and GM executives. Some argued the 350 would cannibalize sales. The twist? Only pressure from the Camaro launch and Trans Am racing forced GM to greenlight the engine in 1967. Had the 350 been killed, the entire small block dynasty might have ended with the 327. Instead, it went on to power over 90 million vehicles worldwide. Collectors know this. If you own a first-year 1967 Camaro 350, you're holding the engine that almost never was. And that's the real legacy. The 350 wasn't just an engine. It was a survivor of corporate sabotage. The Chevy 350 small block isn't just a motor. It's a myth machine. It carried Camaros to victory, kept muscle cars alive through dark decades, and powered everything from boats to Hollywood stunt cars. Its story is one of lies, loopholes, and legendary survival. Which of these facts blew your mind? Hollywood swaps, turquoise paint, or the presidential limo? Drop your favorite in the comments. And if you're hungry for more, check out our deep dives into the 426 Hemi and the Ford 302. They're just as full of secrets, because every legendary engine has skeletons in its block.